All right. Let's see, roll call of school board members. Everyone is present except for Hallwiggers. We have a quorum, so we'll continue. 4.0 is to approve the agenda. I'll move to approve.
A second.
Any questions or discussion on the agenda? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 5.0 communication reports. We'll start with Superintendent Grover.
Yeah, there's a couple, articles bouncing around here on the table. If you haven't seen, I copied them from,
I've seen it.
Grand Forks Herald. And again, they'll come back. One is a, little write-up on our school calendar, which, starting before Labor Day, nice little blurb. And the other was on, they picked up after the board did the, proclamation for driver appreciation at our last board meeting. They picked up and I thought did a nice article with one of our drivers and thanking, them. So anyway, I'm just passing those along. Truly appreciate. I did give you a little update. We had a rough day last Thursday. And just so that everyone's aware, Wednesday was e-learning, but then Thursday, we had 4 buses north of town that ended up, 3 buses that got stuck, one that got stuck twice, so to speak. And then we had another bus up there that came to get kids that broke down. And so anyway, we are working, just so the board's aware, to look at, are there some options of, doing some, I'm going to call it alternative stops on certain days, getting some, years ago, and you guys probably know better than I do, they did some no rural buses at times, but it's technically not equitable and not supposed to be done. And so the issue last Thursday, was not the amount of snow really, and it wasn't it was slippery, don't get me wrong, and it wasn't wind. I mean, there was very little wind. The problem came with like the glare when it got light and certain white, and I mean, everything was just like white in certain places. And so, again, Cody has always told the drivers, if there's ever, something, let us know. And there are a few families that have bad driveways or bad roads that, hey, call, don't come down, we'll get our kid out. Or so we're just looking at coming up with something like that for each route. Not so much in town, but on out of town routes of if we had to, call the weather day or whatever, can with our system, we can push a message out very quick and they would have, like secondary stops, whether it's, out the end of their roads or certain places to see if, we can't improve, if that's the right way to say it. And,
Is there ever a time where we would be able to go back to the no rule buses, or is that off the table? Because
my understanding, like I say, either you're going to transport or not. To just say no rural, like I say, all it takes is one family to push it. Now we have a couple families, one sent that that I emailed back with that kind of had that, hey, we understand, we live in the country, we made this choice. But on the other hand, that's their choice. You get one that says, no, hey, you're in transport that. Like I say, I don't think we could.
so we have to go with the person that says no. We can't go with the person that says it's fine.
Correct. It's kind of,
Well, there was
Who's gonna-
something with the MDE department.
MDE.
I just want to make sure like we're doing everything we can, because I've talked to a few parents and they had the same thing that you're talking about, is like, hey, we chose to live in the country and we know like last week the ditches were full of water also, but I'm just thinking of, we go to Fisher, we go to Alvarado, we go to these places where, some of those schools may not even have school, yet we're being required to bring our buses into those communities even though they don't have school.
And that's a choice we make.
Right,
Every
yeah.
school on this
Yes,
side of the
but we
river
could, that's why I'm asking, can we make the choice then to
I
say
think
no
we
rural
need
buses?
alternative, like alternative stops. And like I say, to be.
Can our alternative stop be outside of East Grand Forks? Like the tech?
No, they're gonna have to be.
Like-
Main.
Like, I mean, so that's an alternative stop, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it would, let's be honest, we had no issues on the main.
Yep,
roads.
and it just happened to be just a one day that
Wow.
was just a lot of things went wrong on that day. We understand that, and hopefully the community does
And to
too.
be honest, Wayo ran, Fisher ran.
Yep.
Crookston had teacher conferences, so they didn't run, but and so, like I said, we're looking at some alternative and we'll try it whenever it gets in place. The drivers are given, gonna help and work. It's not just as, you got to get alternative times, you got to get, so it's not something that just tomorrow we're gonna. have
Right,
it
yep.
already.
There's a process.
but we'll try it and see, see how that goes. And like I say, try and improve. And again, like I say, drivers always have the right to say, no, it's too bad. Yeah, you know, or something if they get to a certain place when we've called people. Nancy and Carla do a lot more of it than I do. You know, and hey, we can't get there, or you know, hey, can you get your kid out, and we'll work with them. So just be on the up and up. That's where we're going, at least to try, and we'll go from there. And again, it'll be a fluid, you know, it can change. On you'll see here on 6.3, and just so you're aware, it's it's just some procedures. There's a family that's requested to see if their child could start, and Soraya's not here, I think start school early. So we need to have a process in place. And so she's worked with several schools that have rules. It's like a handbook deal. So we're asking for approval. Again, it's something that can change over time. It's not something that happens very often, you know, early entrance to kindergarten or, you know, grade acceleration, but we should have something in it, and it has various components to it where we have some psychs, you know, have to look at some testing scores. And again, there's a group person decision. So I just wanted to mention that. That's why that's coming. That we have a policy, but it doesn't go into the, you know, step-by-step kind of what the requirements are. And so that's, we've kind of borrowed, stole, worked with some groups, to come up with what we think is right. So.
Yeah, I was really confused
Say
there
again,
for a second.
is it 6.4? Sorry.
I was like, yeah. Oh, that's where that is. Yep.
Okay. I have something from Laura, just, cause they have, early childhood screening tonight, so she just asked me to kind of publicly put it out there that early childhood screening is going on tonight as well as tomorrow night, and then March 23rd and 24th. It's 4 to 7 o'clock on all 4 nights. Screening is for children ages 3 to 5 years of age. Children currently attending preschool within the district have already been screened, but and children only need to be screened once before entering kindergarten. If they have questions, they can reach out to Laura Community Ed, or they can go online and register, get an appointment set up a time. So that's where she's at. The other piece, you have 2 documents here. One is like a revised budget, and then the other one I'm going to talk about. Let's start with the revised budget. Again, we're not asking for approval or anything. If we want to down the road, we can. You don't have to legally revise, but we're updating. If you look on the, I'm just going to kind of, up column is what was approved last year. Okay, so that was the approved for this school year. If you were to do the math and it's not totaled there, it's about 470,000 in the hole is what we approved, okay, going into the year. The downside, the middle, the next column is, you can see that in general, our revenue has went down from 33.2 to 32.2, if you will. When you get down to the expenses, we're from 33.7 to 33.6, so it's down a little bit. But the kicker is that revenue's down $1 million. Okay, and we're gonna highlight a few reasons why. Okay, if you just, and again, if you take and flip, it's that information broke down here in different formats. Okay, on page 2, if you will. Okay, this second document is what we'll get into where the big hit is coming from. And again, the document, you can look through it on page 3. Again, if you come back and look at this, the numbers are just repeated in different ways, but down on the bottom of page 3, the biggest thing, the biggest factors, let's put it this way, are students going down. And when we say down 50, that not all 50 have left, but we have 31 online. And so that is hurting, or our expenses are up from that because we're paying that money out to Owatonna Online. But then we've also lost about 20 more than we had, you know, planned. Compensatory revenue, roughly 150,000 less than we were planning on. But the big one is in the special ed realm, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And then there's some language there from the special ed where this is coming from. And so that's where we're at. We'll talk about more in just a few minutes, but you take the second group of documents, this is the levy, if you will. I took and recreated 3 years to try and figure out what was going on here, because when Carla came to me going, we're $1 million off, it's like, you can't, I mean, our costs are going up for the most part, or at least staying stable. And so, that's where this came from. But what I want to highlight, for the most part, I don't expect everyone to go through. But if you look on line 10, do you see where there's an option 1? And then on line 17, there's an option 2. And of course, and again, I have notes in there. It's not that big a deal. When you go on to page 2 then, and you get to line 42, there's an option 3, and that's where I highlight, okay? So keep in mind that the right column is fiscal 24. So you see option 1 was I'm just gonna say 2.42. Option 3 was 2.42. Then goes option 1 is 2.47, and option 2 is 2.52. Well, line 43 is the lesser of those 3, okay? So in far right column, the line 43 is 2.4. Then in the middle column, which is fiscal 25, it's 2.8. That's last year. When we get to the next one over, notice of those 3 numbers, the bottom one now is the lowest. So we ended up in what's called a different option, and it's down at 2.69. Okay. So instead of going, okay, we're at 2.4, 2.8, thinking you're going to be around 3.1 or so. Again, this is just a start of the formula. It now builds on that number, which is less. So I'm going to go down to, keep going on to line 3 or page 3 if you follow along. So we get to 52, line 52. And again, you can see over on 24, it's 720,888. But we start taking this hit now because they're using that number, okay, and it's coming along. That's calculation A, if you will. Then there it goes down to that next orange line, which is the 56. I forgot to highlight orange is calculation B. And then in this case, it takes the bigger of those 2, which is 877. But again, you'll notice we were 1.1 last year. We're at close to 900,000 this year. And finally, when you go on to page 4, just about finally, is the first, there's 2 big calculations. And in green there, first payment for our Fed state aid is I'm going to call it 6.9, 3.7. Notice it was 4.1 before, and it was 3.54. And then when you go to page 5, the next green line is the second part, 555,000 or 557,000 instead of roughly $1 million last year. And what's happening, it's delayed, which again, I'm learning as we go here. This has never caught me before, but what happened is in fiscal 24, like when Julie was here, her whole salary was in SPED. We had a bunch of paras that qualified for SPED that are no longer in there. It's just about $1 million in expense. We can't figure out if some of the like COVID things went through SPED money, because we're down from like a max of 6 million in expenses to about 5.2 or something like that right now. And so what happens is last year, if off that number, because it takes prior year's numbers. So when you're looking at it thinking, okay, we're at least going to stay similar. Well, no, now this year we're on a 5.2 number instead of a 6 for max expenses. And it just caught us. And so we reached out because I'm like, there's no way, it can't be off that much. And that's where those 2 lines, when you go back here, that's what the state guy sent us going, here's the big reasons why you're down. And unfortunately, it is what it is. There's one part of it is a new formula and part of it is.
So I just want to make sure, is it the new formula from the state?
That's part of it.
Is that part of it?
That's part of it.
Is that a bigger part of it than losing like 50 kids?
Well, this is just on the SPED portion. I mean,
Oh,
the piece when you work through our calculations, our free and reduced numbers are down.
Yeah.
That's playing into it. And again, yeah, there's some other places that are experiencing similar, but it all depends. Like I say, most our population going down isn't helping it. or I should say student
Student
enrollment.
enrollment.
But that probably wasn't the catch up on this. You know, I mean, the biggest piece here was a different formula and not realizing that there was a big drop in expense from 2 years ago, which that affected last year, which actually brought your number up, which was a good thing. And now this year, when we're down, you know, not only we saved some money, but we lost in the aid. And so it just, I hate to say it, it's bad. And so, again, look at it if you have questions, but the bigger piece with this, meaning the budget, is, number one, I would like to meet with Amanda and Lynn, and then I have a, meeting next, is it next Monday? We have set up admin to start looking at some numbers and having some conversation, before we come back to the board, because we're gonna have to correct. I mean, we just, you see, we're eating into our reserves and we just can't go on. And, it's gonna need some correction.
So the new what I'm reading here is the new formula resulted in being about $450,000 less than we thought, and because of that, $450,000 less, we had a reduction in aid of $521,000.
Well, both came in.
Yeah.
There's two parts to the
Right.
calculation, yeah, and so they both hit in a,
Both hit
Same
and
time.
Added
So
up
that's
to
like
the million.
right there, that's almost.
correct, and so the rest, other things have been adjusted, you know, when updating the budget. We've lost kids that have hurt, but we've also came up on certain things, you know, your contracts are settled, those numbers actually came out, you know, decent. But yeah, we went from, just call it 475,000 or whatever to 1.4, which is about $1 million. But again, that's everything included. The special ed was the big piece. If it wasn't the special ed, you probably would have been at 200,000 or something, because we've made some gains in certain areas, or, you know, certain things went up and some went down. But, yeah, again, the other thing we use what's called a what if. It's the program the state uses that we put all our numbers into, and it pushes out, you know, roughly. It still showed up until a new run, and we
Just
give the-
recently. Yes, it was just recently.
correct,
Yes.
that we were still getting it, and that was the piece Carla was like, it shows we're getting 5 million instead of 4 million. But the levy sheets, which we have 3 years worth that I used, you know, to help build that, showed us being that 4.2 or whatever, and it's like, hey, something's missing, you know, and especially, like I said, the costs aren't going down, but they are, I mean, or they did from 2 years ago, and it hit us. Now, looking into next year, our number's gonna bounce a little bit up, but again, it's not gonna correct itself completely,
Right,
you know, cause it's using
anyway.
this year's number, not the last year number that took the big hit down. So anyway, that.
So, like, that was gonna be my follow-up, I guess. What's that projection for next year?
So we're working on that, and that's the next step, but the reality is it's not jumping up and.
Right, it's not gonna jump up
I
that.
mean, the reality of even the, just call it 500 that we had, we needed to probably start making some corrections, because even if we do go down the road of an operating, that's still a year out. You know, so we're gonna look at, like I say, admin is gonna look at some ideas. And like I said, I will meet with Lynn and Amanda to kind of bounce a few things off before we come back to the board as a whole with, you know, some thoughts of where we're at. And we will have more conversation at our next board meeting, you know, to get some direction and throw some things around, so.
And is this, how soon do we need to correct this by?
Well, if you look at the bottom of this first page on this sheet, you see our unreserved goes from 3.2, you know, roughly to
Yep.
1. It needs to be corrected sooner rather than later. We can't do another year of that same type deal. You know, we'll get, and there's a few things in, like even this year that, you know, can go away and not be a big hit. You know, but again, it's not something that can hold off forever.
Correct.
Some things like holding.
Well, no, I was just thinking if it's gotta be within like 6 months, does it have to be within 3 months? Does it have to
Well,
be?
no, there's not much, I mean, we can obviously try and hold back as much as we can right now, but it's looking at next school year. I mean, to change your major costs.
Mhm.
you know, so again, we will come back, like I say, with some conversation and go from there. So that is what I have at this point.
We'll move on to principals.
Yeah. Have to have better news than that, right?
Okay, it's been a while. I kind of missed January. My New Year's gift was influenza A, so that was fun. So I don't know if Grover shared, but I just was gonna recap. Gander and Senator Johnson did come for principal for a day on Friday, January 9th, so that was awesome. They loved it. They asked to be invited back. So it was just thank them for giving their time. They got to see, we kind of got to walk around, and of course, he's like, "Is this your normal?" And I was like, "No, you should follow me around some more often," because of course the kids aren't used to seeing male figures in our building either. So I think that was fun for them to kind of see male teachers. I mean, we get Josh, but otherwise we don't have a ton. So no, that was awesome and successful. We've wrapped up winter assessments. It's always good to see and celebrate the growth of our students. We just finished spring PT conferences. We had about a 90% attendance rate. I wish I would have had the numbers from the fall, but I didn't collect at that time. Mel and I were able to go to Institute in the beginning of February. So that's our winter admin conference through MESPA. That was a good experience. We left both being able to come back and have some things that we could turn around and implement right away. So that's always nice. Mark Mint or Coda came as well. He worked with the kids on storytelling, and that's like what it means to be an author, illustrator, incorporated some games with the kids as well. So we are, I think, working to reschedule one of the days because we did have a cancellation due to weather. So we're trying to figure out if we can get that second day rescheduled so those kids get that. We had our all school powwow today, which was amazing. The kids loved it. They were so engaged. They did a wonderful job. So thank you to Dara, Mark Mint, Ricky White, the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee for help and supporting getting these events and exposure to the kids. We celebrated Love Spot at our February assembly, and then on March 2nd, on Monday, we'll be kicking off our I Love to Read month and celebrating the Spot of Happiness. So there should be some information coming out to families with all the different various events that we'll be having in March. And then lastly, we did schedule kindergarten roundup. So that is scheduled for April 16th, 5:30 to 7. And then there'll be more info coming through for that. So that was kind of a lot, but
You
do you have
say
any-
April 16th?
April 16th, yep. And I'll send out more information, but we have it kind of divvied up by last names, but obviously if a family needs to come at either time slot, we want them to be able to come, so. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. I basically could say ditto to a lot of, maybe one of these times I'd have to go first.
Even the flu?
Sound like the same, right?
Great.
So yeah, just wanted to start off by saying, what a great what a great way to start off our week was with our powwow today. Special thank you again to Darryl Meg, Ricky White, and the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. It was just an awesome cultural event that was arranged for both students and staff. And it just really is exposing our kids to that culture. I also want to congratulate Senna Noor, so I'm not sure if you're aware or not. She took first place in the Grand Forks Sertoma's Club's Freedoms Essay Week. There were 120 participants, and so she took first place, and so it was really cool. So her family, myself, and our mayor, we were all invited to a luncheon last Tuesday, and so she got to read all three of the top three, I should say, got to read their essays, and so that was really cool. To not to be able to be there, be a part of that, but to have her represent, East Grand Forks and South Point. So that was really cool. So very proud of her and her teacher, Christy Trudson. It was a volunteer basis, so you weren't required as a classroom teacher to do this. And so Christy did have her class participate. And so very, very pleased with that. We too have finished up our winter benchmark assessments. We've used that data to reflect and we've realigned our interventions. And so we've had them going for a while now. So very pleased with our students' growth and where they're at with that. If you've been over to South Point, excuse me, I'm not getting sick. I've declared that. I'm not getting sick. We've got the new lighting installed on our stage, so please check that out. If you had a fourth grader, you were able to see that, and it's just really cool to showcase. It really does showcase the students. And so just want to say a big thank you to Danny Moffett for organizing that fundraising, but a huge thank you to all of those people who supported that endeavor and made that happen. It's very cool. We also had conferences the first part of February. Again, a wonderful turnout, and it's really great to see family and students and our staff come together and just reflect on where they're at and where they still want to go for the rest of the school year. And on Thursday, our fifth graders will be headed to Detroit Lakes, to Detroit Mountain for their big ski trip. Just as a former fifth grade teacher, I know what an awesome day that is. So it really just puts kids outside their comfort zone, lets them try new experiences. And so just really pleased that they get to participate in that event. And then I just wanted to say, thank you for that support, for allowing myself and Sierra to attend that MESPA conference. Like she said, we really did have that opportunity to reflect and take a lot away that I felt this was a really awesome experience this year. There was a lot that we could bring back to and implement right away, and things that we're going to be able to try next year with our students and staff. So very pleased with that. So thank you for that opportunity. Is there any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Going, I guess, off the ski trip, our eighth graders just a couple weeks ago did get to go to Buena Vista to go skiing. I think one of the favorite comments I heard was from some eighth grade girls that said some of those eighth grade boys that are a little annoying in class were super helpful on that day. And so I think some of them were in their element, and it's just great that they get to do some of those opportunities too. We did a school-wide community service project for United Way. Every student in our WAVE group, such as our SEL and other things, made some bags that were to be donated to thrift stores and food shelf. And so they did that Wednesday morning, a couple Wednesdays ago. We have conferences coming up on March 11th and 18th. So in a few weeks, conferences at the middle school. The musical is March 5th and 6th for James and the Giant Peach, and they have been working very hard, and we're still working at the school when I left this afternoon too, and so I'm very excited to see that next week. We hosted the robotics tournament on January 30th, and 4 out of the 7 teams that qualified for state from East Grand Forks are middle school teams, and so we've got 4 middle school teams going to state, so that's really cool as well. Winter sports are wrapped up. I briefly talking about the powwow. I won't repeat everything again, but thank you for that. That was very nice way to start our day. Ricky White was even able to get some of our 8th grade boys and girls down onto the floor and do some dancing along with the drummers and the dancers. So thank you for that experience. We have reading interventions that are getting in place as we in the secondary are continuing to work on the READ Act implementation. Just was meeting with Brian and Soraya this morning about some things. We had some teachers last Friday sit through a training so that they are better equipped to do some of the reading interventions as we continue to identify and start intervening with our students at the secondary level. One last activity related thing, we mentioned it a while ago, but it's kicking, is a new CMS Knowledge Bowl team. So Mr. Hansen, who is the senior high Knowledge Bowl coach, wrote a grant and got some funding to try and see if it would work out in the middle school world. And we have had some middle school teams going to some Knowledge Bowl competitions. And so that's been kind of neat as well. So a lot of things happening, a lot of activities. I'm kind of looking forward to this little lull between winter and spring sports, but then we have musicals and concerts and things like that. So are there any questions? What's going on at the middle school?
It's a lot.
It's great.
It's great. Wait, no, I'm not going.
It's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Brian or Bruce, are you here for Brian or are you just here?
I'm just here.
Okay, perfect. I don't see Soraya.
I have a question, I guess. So my question, I guess, is, we've talked a lot about the READ Act when it comes to like the middle school and the high school. Is there like, I don't want to put people on the spot or anything like that, but I know the elementary schools have implemented that and they're working on that. Is the upper levels, do they have an implementation date or? Okay,
They were piloting in a couple of spots to figure out how to best do it, but the hard part with the secondary world is they said, start implementing in the middle of the school year. In the secondary world, your schedule is set.
yes,
Completely
Yep.
read the master schedule. I talk with other principals, in northern Minnesota mostly, and everyone's kind of in the same boat that they're gonna try to do as much as we can this spring, figure out where the bumps and bruises are gonna come from, so that next fall we can really try to do everything with fidelity.
will that be the high school as well? Okay, Okay. okay, okay.
Good question. Committee reports, anybody? Okay. 6.0 is a consent agenda, so I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any questions, discussion, Any pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 7.0, citizens, okay. 8.0 is district business. 8.1 is to approve the contract between the district and Valley Golf Association. Our last board meeting, we had a representative from Valley Golf come talk to us. So we said, set up a contract.
And so
So I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Then
And the only-
discuss.
only comment I would say is you have a draft of a contract there, which, it has been passed their way as well. We did a few I'm gonna say wordsmithed a few things. Like I said, I just feel we need to have something, it's good practice to have something in writing, and so that's what's there. Not that it has changed anything, we've always had insurance, we'll always have insurance, things like that. They provide use, if that's the right way to say it, of the golf course for mainly golf, but also cross-country, it's all in there. And so, again, I recommend, continuing the working relationship we have and,
Yeah, I think it was maybe kind of him to come. We've never even talked, about our usage with the Valley Golf, so.
It's nice to have it in a contract in case something happens to anywhere, we have that to go back, fall back on.
both sides could get out if need
Yep.
be. I mean, I don't see anything changing or whatever.
All right, all those in favor of approving the contract with Valley Golf, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.2 is to approve the boys soccer storage meeting shed as presented and attached in board book, and it also was presented to us last week. So I'll move to approve, and we can have discussion after a second, Ollie. Okay.
So I guess I will start. I've had comment or conversation, obviously, ahead of time, prior to last meeting, with Mr. Stengel and Scott and a few. I did meet with, Miss Bina. I also met with, a girl player. I think you all got a letter I forwarded on that she wanted you to have. Again, Scott and I are not, how would you say, we're in favor. We're behind doing something. It's a matter of what and how, if something gets done, if the board. I'll be honest, personally, and I'll speak on behalf of Scott and myself, we think something needs to be collaborative.
Yeah.
If there's something gonna be done. Not to say it has to, but I mean, even if you go back to that proposal, one was up close to the fence, one's back behind, if you want like viewing area, it's not fair to both of them. And I'm not saying it has to be exactly the way it is, but I guess our thought is if we're gonna do something, and like I say, whatever it means when I say we, because it becomes our property. For boys, girls should be included. And, I'll be honest, I talked with Miss Bina and at first not, overly, but I said, step back. I said, if the school was doing something, I said, yeah, it'd be nice having a little, closer storage, a little different setup. Yeah, a place to get out of the, heat and wouldn't be a bad thing. They talked about, and I'm not saying there aren't, they meet a lot of times in the cafeteria in here, not to say there aren't other areas, but so I guess from our standpoint, again, appreciate Matt, I'm gonna say boys soccer for, maybe kicking this off. And again, the board has obviously the final say in decision, but I guess from our standpoint, it's hard to say, you get to do it here, you get to do it here. And I guess even if I was a community person sponsoring or something, it's usually cheaper to add on to one for a little more room than it's doing a complete separate structure. So that's our thought. We're behind it. We think it would be a good addition, meaning for programs and possibly even, track or something. And I think Matt even brought that up.
But not in this manner.
What's that?
But not in this manner, you're not behind.
Well, we think it needs to be, no, correct,
Different
some,
building.
yeah. What do you want to say? Consolidated effort, and how that exactly moves forward is a piece to, figure out,
I agree. I appreciate Matt kicking off the conversation. I don't disagree that there needs to be something for soccer players or for track folk or, the people who maybe don't have a facility like that for storage. I would rather see a multi-use function building. I would rather not see it where it was maybe proposed. I don't know if that is conducive to the best viewing point for soccer or for track or anything. There seems to be a lot of areas in which it could be built. That seemed different. But, so I also think something would be nice, not this.
I've talked to Matt several times about this. I agree. I share your concerns about, this being for boys and not the girls. But I also look at it from a standpoint of, he's putting a lot of his own time and money and has gone through the process of finding people to get on board with this. He's saving us a lot of money by doing this himself. And is that something we want to walk away from and then potentially have to pay for it ourselves down the road when we have this opportunity right now in front of us? I know it's not, it's muddy water right now trying to move forward with this because it's for the boys and not the girls. And if we're looking at doing a shared space, I think his whole reason behind doing this that kicked it off was to get their own space, because right now they currently share spaces as far as storage. So I don't know if trying to make something a shared space is necessarily the solution. If we're gonna do it, it's gotta be equal. I understand that.
but it's gonna be our facility when it's done.
Yeah.
And so in
And that's where it
essence,
gets muddy.
somehow it kind of, and I think they can have, whether it's this exact design or not, separate storage where, what, boys soccer doesn't have a key to girls soccer and girls soccer doesn't have a, or, like say if track user, whatever, it
Yeah.
is their own.
And I do want to say thanks to this girl that wrote us that letter, because it is great to know these things to get brought to our attention. Reading that, I think we should try to do everything we can to make sure we're doing our best to make sure that they have safe spaces and the best that we have to offer for them with what we have. So I'm sorry. I guess the way I look at it, I would like to see a way that we can move forward to give him permission to do this, just because he's willing to do it himself and provide it himself. And he could, if we give him permission, he could get this going and up for have it available to the team next fall. Maybe it's something where we can work with him and say, for the time being, can we make it a shared space? Until we get something figured out for the girls.
I guess,
I would rather see him do that. Like, I would rather see him, go to the track team, go to, the girls soccer team and talk to them about how they can use that as a shared space. And maybe not even that L, but just like a shed, and maybe look at other areas. But also when I look through this agreement, some of this made me nervous because it
Sure.
had, the goal is, you know, maybe we, and it's not certain terms.
But keep in mind, this is tentative, you know,
Yep.
if the board said,
Understand, but I think a lot of that hinges on what might be.
Mhm.
And I think for such an expense that he is helping with, but not all of it, there's some uncertain things in it. And so I would rather see that shored up and how it really is gonna happen and how, you know, it could be a multi-use facility before we agree to anything. And not saying that it can't come back, like even in the next board agree, you know, board meeting, but I can't agree to
Not
this
as is.
It,
as is.
here's the other thing, like, this isn't the first time a coach has brought something like this to us. I said, Ryan Kosowski did a great job in, you know, funding and doing all that funding for that, football locker room. And he came with all the money and he came with everything and said, hey, this is what I did. I'm going to do this for our school and I'm gonna do this for the football program and all that stuff. I think that Matt did a great thing by, hey, making everyone aware of this, and we're having these conversations about it now. But I think there's other entities inside our community that can help build this thing for everybody, and we can use it for a multi-use in the fall, in the spring, because boys and girls soccer don't play at the same time. You know, normally one's in there, one's out. Is in that location, would it be good for track and field? I think there's times for throwers and stuff like that, you have that right there. But can we do, there's other entities, like I said, there's the boosters. Have you reached out to them? Have you reached out to, you know, the soccer club? I know they do things like that and stuff like that. There's other areas where we can do this. I mean, I was just a part of, you know, a lot of discussions for those video boards with the YBA and the boosters and making sure that we got those in the football field and with Ryan Kosowski. And we did a lot of that, those conversations were done prior to coming to the board. So my plea to everybody is, yes, we need this. We just went through the numbers that said we're in a deficit right now as a school. So the school right now can't fund this. Do we all agree that we need this? Absolutely. So but we need other people in the community to step up and say, hey, our kids need this, and it's something that can be used multiple seasons. It can be used all summer, it can be used in the spring, it can be used in the fall. We all agree that something needs to be there. So if there's any groups or other people that would like to help with that project, let's do it, but let's make it for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with you at all, Josh. I think it's a great idea. My concern again is just that Matt has already reached out to all these people and a lot of them are former soccer players and that's why they're on board with this. I think we would be losing a lot of that if we said no to this and went towards something else. And
Soccer is still gonna be included
Uh,
though.
yeah.
It's just
Think
gonna be
that
soccer
We're saying no, never gonna talk about it again.
Right.
yeah,
Just no
as
in this
presented.
form.
Yeah, and we can't just try to say, hey, let's try jam it in this just so we have it in the fall. Let's make sure that things are in a row and whoever is going to, you know, if Matt wants to spearhead it or whoever, that they have everything in line and they come and say, here's all the money, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to do to include everybody.
We need like more of a business plan, because this is like indicated willingness, initial conversations held, preliminary discussions, maybe used, but future upgrades. Well, that's us. You know, so I think there just needs to be,
Like, this is exactly what
like
we're
what
gonna
you
do.
did is fantastic, and going to get all these
Yeah.
people that are willing to help. Anybody who else is out there and wants to help, here's your chance.
Sure.
But I just think in this form, I can't say yes to this because it has to be multi-use.
you know, prime example, I think, you know, the two locations on that diagram, I'm not saying there's, I mean, if we said, okay, boys soccer, you get the one behind the bleachers and girls get the one, I mean, right there, there's an inequity for one side or the other. You know,
Sure.
if you're gonna have a viewing type thing.
Mhm.
yeah,
And so, I mean, that's kind of even, you know, not to say there aren't other areas, you
Yeah.
know, around the field, but there are not a lot of them that are, you know, and so there again, you know, it's, you know, what's best for all groups. And again, I agree. Yeah, you know, and I think he, along with others, maybe have ideas of others that will help and fund and this and that. And this was meant to be kind of a tentative, you know, get to the point where the board can say, yeah, we're on board. We do have to get the rest of the contracts, you know, and money and this and that. But if not, I mean, if we're 100% opposed, then, you know, no sense going to more businesses and so on. So I mean, somehow, and again, like I say, the board has the final say.
Yeah, and like I said, I think Matt's whole premise of this was to try and get separated. So the boys soccer club could have their own space, because there's been issues with sharing storage where the kids don't necessarily know this isn't ours or that's not ours, or,
But they can have separate, I think, in
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
And there's certain things I'm guessing they must have some nets and certain things that probably do have to be shared between, yeah, you know, that maybe that stuff can stay, you know, somewhere. But, you know, as far as balls and jerseys and different things, yeah, I think they need separate if that's the right way, just like basketball does and
yeah, there's
others.
other practice aids and other things too.
Yeah.
All right, should we take a vote? Are we done discussing? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, do you wanna roll call this one? No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Okay, motion fails 4-1. This topic doesn't have to be over.
Correct.
It's just this particular.
Right, just for
Okay.
this,
This, the way it's presented.
the way it's presented.
And this was a great discussion. I appreciate from everybody. Lynn, is there a way, because I know Matt would be very eager to change his proposal or add to it or give you more information. Is it close enough where if you had a conversation with him that he could get you the things, I mean, information
I
that
get-
you would like to see?
I guess for me, I would want full, like, hey, this is all the money it's gonna cost, not we might get this, or we need this money, or I want full money. Like I said, when Ryan came in, he came with a big lump sum of money and said, here's all the money, we're doing this.
Okay.
I don't wanna say, we haven't talked to this person yet, or we haven't talked to, or this person's gonna trade for this, or whatever, you know, whatever that is, we have to make sure that it's 100%, because if we put our name behind this and then something, you know, doesn't necessarily fall through because the funds aren't there, then who's gonna be responsible for that?
Sure.
So that's the biggest thing, and that's like from the construction part of things, like we gotta make sure it's fully funded 100%. And then we actually, you know, take a look and go talk to the AD and talk to some other people to make sure that it's in a spot that's going to be conducive for everybody, and it's a spot that's gonna work for all involved.
So I,
Permitted.
Because the location can change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think that, you know, that's a great starting point. Is that a discussion? Yeah, that could work there, but what about over here? What about over here? From a, you know, from the AD standpoint or the principal standpoint, you know, or the track coaches or all the coaches involved, and say, hey, let's all get together and let's see if we can't find a spot for this, but here's also all the full funded before I would want to approve anything.
yeah, he should, you know, if he wants to have whomever might be involved with the multi-use building, like at a table and wants one of us to be there, we certainly can.
Mhm.
You know, that might be a good
Maybe
starting point.
they fundraise as well, you know, it's
Right.
brought together what the boys were able to raise, maybe
Right.
the girls, you know, maybe
Mhm.
anybody was gonna be using this facility, they also fundraise and you have a bigger pot and more buy-in
Yeah. And
because
I
of
do think.
everybody.
Dr. Booth, for sure.
Okay.
And the soccer club.
So is this a hard no as long as it's just for boys soccer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gotta be multi-use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
it's, yeah.
That doesn't mean like within that building, there can't be 2 closets for the boys.
Right, or there
Sure.
can't be, and they can't, you know, if the building's big enough and it's set up big enough, like boys are here and girls are here and there's a wall in between, you know, something like that, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's a shared space, but
Sure. Thank you.
You bet. All right, 8.3 is to approve the girls' hockey co-op between Sacred Heart and East Grand Forks. No later than the 2027-28 school year. I will move to approve.
I'll second.
Questions and discussion on this one?
So again, just to make sure everyone's on board, if this is approved, it does have to come back to the board down the road for formal approval for East Grand as well as Sacred Heart, okay? But what we're in essence approving is a general layout, because if we say, yes, we would do this, they get out of their co-op, whether it's this summer or, for the following year, come back here and then you said no. I mean, they don't want to risk that. And so that is in essence what we're doing here. Now, what,
That's understood, but what if the proposal that they bring to us is not agreeable?
okay, so what we've thrown out for a proposal, and that's something that this board would decide, is what you want the proposal to be. We've thrown out, they pay, the normal participation fee. And if you saw in there, then I said if they went to state, they would pay a proportionate, meaning, because that is a huge cost when you start, other than that, that's where we started, and that's where a lot are, not all co-ops are. But the board could say, no, we want, $400 a kid. I mean, that is up for discussion now, and I think it has to somewhat be laid out, because like I said, if you're gonna charge them $100,000, I mean, no, it's a done deal. Let's not talk about it. And so, like I say, this agreement would be what we would agree to.
Do you know what the activity fee is for girls hockey right now?
I want to say it's 230
I feel like it's 250. I know I.
or
I
something.
thought it was, I thought it was double everything else,
Well, you doubled
like-
it here a year or two.
which is like 280.
60? 260.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, where we kind of came from is, we have kids that go over to Grand Forks and participate in wrestling and swimming, and they pay the activity fee for the most part. And again, not saying that's right or wrong. Obviously, finances are in a tough spot. But again, we are gonna ask, community people for some stuff down the road. And, like Sacred Heart uses the turf field a few times a year. And so, I mean, I see it as, a little bit of trying to work with them. Keep in mind, every 2 years, the proposal can be re-looked at. Yeah, I mean, because if 50% or something, that's what people have thrown out. What happens? They have more kids than we do someday. Well, I think it's a different deal at that point. I'm just being honest. That as things change, the agreements can change. If all of a sudden we have 40 kids of our own 6 years from now, things can change. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. It's not that you go into something to, not have it work, but if circumstances change, then this could change.
We haven't enough numbers at our high school team this year because we bring girls up from 8th and 9th grade. We should have a 15U team to help develop them better, but we bring them up to high school so we can have a JV and a varsity.
Because we don't have enough numbers. for
Okay, but
15U.
you, okay, sorry.
We don't have enough numbers for 15U and.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Or
And
12,
they would have to travel, isn't it? Like, there's not really a lot of towns around here. They would have to travel
Yeah.
really far.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of 15U teams
Yeah.
in this area, so traveling 4 hours for a game or whatnot is,
sure.
like, that's part of it.
And we have numbers at the 12U level. At the 10U and 8U and below, they really drop off. We're looking at, but when the 10U gets up to the high school level, which is what, 6 to 8 years, we're looking at potentially, if nothing changes, having to co-op with like a Crookston to keep the program going. Because Crookston, I think, is having the same problems. So I look at this, we can try to do this co-op now, and it'll help. It'll bring some girls to the high school level. It'll also, there are younger girls that play, youth hockey that go to Sacred Heart. It would give them hope to be able to continue to go to Sacred Heart, to continue to play hockey. I think it would build the numbers in the youth level slowly, but our girls hockey program hasn't been successful recently, and this year they had some success, and there was excitement around the team for the first time in a long time, and you could see it at that section championship game. There was a lot of people there. I mean, there was a lot of people there, and that'll help generate more revenue. If we do this co-op, it's going to bring more success to our high school team. And I think like I said, it's going to, overall, it'll help bring numbers to our program. Not just immediately, but I think down the road too.
It won't be imminent, right? And it's not gonna be the be all end all,
No,
but it will help.
it will help. And I like,
Numbers in girls hockey. Or not for our enrollment numbers, not for our district numbers.
And there's no doubt you have gotten a few kids over time.
Every year we do, I think.
What's that?
Not every year. I think most years some kids switch over.
You've gotten a few. On the flip side, you know, like I say, how can we work? And again, it's not just here, you know, Proctor Hermantown's been co-op for years, you know, many schools in girls hockey.
we're the
Are-
only one in our section that doesn't, other than Warroad, but Warroad has their own way of doing things, but we're the only town other than Warroad that doesn't have several co-ops in our program
girls
for girls hockey, yeah.
How many
um,
are public, private, you know, like, as far as the co-op, like, joining a,
They're mostly all public.
well, mostly public and
Yeah.
I
public.
know like Moorhead, as big as they are, they co-op with the private school in Moorhead,
Or Christian,
Oh, yes.
Park Christian, yeah.
or Christian.
And yeah, and like I say, there's the pieces that can't disagree. You've gotten a kid or two a year or whatever. On the flip side, if we can get a few people to help support, you know, something down there, I don't know how you're never gonna measure it. I'm just gonna be.
Worried about like one or two people that we're not gonna have. I'm more worried about like the online stuff. Where you're getting 10 people going online, it's gonna just increase. That's where we
Hmm.
should make up our.
And we,
Mhm.
We're
Ryan's
trying
not
to
here.
figure out something like that. I think it's just girls in general as far as, because, you know, I'll just use soccer, girls soccer. I mean, they must have had a handful or more that were middle school kids that were playing varsity soccer this year. You look at the basketball numbers, they had to pull an eighth grader up because they didn't have numbers, and they're filling 3 teams with 20 girls. You know, so I mean, those issues are not just a girls hockey issue, and so I think it's more of a community and a girl issue as far as maintaining and keeping those girls out for sports in order to maintain them. And we're in a very unique situation where we're in a small community, yet we're trying to, we have 3 high schools. You know, we have, you know, that's a difficult thing to develop, where a lot of places that are our size just have 1 high school or whatever, and we have 2 private schools and a public school. It makes it very difficult when you're fighting for the same kids. And especially, it makes it, I think where it becomes really difficult is, and where the decision becomes really tough is because, you know, like you said, you saw the numbers right now that we're in trouble as far as hurting. And yeah, if it's just 1 or 2 kids, they come over, but if they come over as a middle schooler and they're here for 6 years, that one kid could generate, you know, $60,000 to $70,000 for our school district, just 1 kid that moves over. And so, I mean, you start thinking, well, that's not a lot of money, but it is when you're talking about a public school and where we need to find our funds from. And that's the hard part for me. Do I believe that these girls should be able to play together? Absolutely. They should be able to play together, but from an emotional standpoint, and they've been playing since they've been them little. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and this business, kids coming through the school and their enrollment is important to us and important to our funding.
But
And
one of the business facts are that you won't have girls hockey.
well,
It's not, that's
You'd have-
not immediate.
now that.
But we're,
So is that's.
No, I know it is, but like you, but what Matt said, we're not having an issue at the high school level right now, so this feels like
But this agreement is for
2 years.
no later than the 2027-28 school year, right? And if you don't start sometime, you're never gonna build it up.
we either, I mean, we're gonna have to either co-op with Crookston eventually or cut the program, and then we have to cut a boys program too, to stay in compliance with Title IX.
well, that's not, it's based on numbers now.
Okay.
You could actually have 4 girls program and 1 boys. Well, no, I mean, you have to have,
But-
there's a number of
Sure.
participants. It used to be that way. If you had 5 boys, you had to have 5 girls.
Sure,
It's no longer, but
okay.
again-
But regardless, we're looking at
correct.
down the road, either having to
Yep.
drop the
Wax
program
and
or,
lines, you know,
Yeah.
like numbers here, you know, they can shift around, but like you said, with girl athletes, if we're all pulling from the same crowd, there's a lot of choices. They have a lot of things that they can do in the winter, so I think there's that, but it doesn't mean that the numbers are always gonna stay, you know.
I just don't like and sorry, Josh, I just
Yep.
don't like when you say it's an emotional decision, because I personally don't think that like girls not having an activity that we absolutely could have is an emotional decision. I want to keep girls, in activities. I want to keep, and you said it best, like it's really going down for all the girls.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So to me, like that's a fact,
Mhm.
right? And so for
We have an
me,
opportunity to help
I
them.
I could not vote against it because I want to keep girls just in the activities. If it was any other sport that we were having this numbers problem with, I'd say the same. I think it's so important to keep the girls in activities. And not just sports, any activities. And that's a plug for everybody. Keep your girls and stuff.
Absolutely. I agree with that too. I just, I understand too what Josh is saying is the bottom line. It has to be beneficial. It has to be mutually beneficial to both districts or both schools at this time. And I don't think
Financially.
right, that it will be this, it won't be as equal as it.
Can I ask, because again, I don't know the history, why do we allow them to use the turf field then? I mean, I'm just throwing a plug out, I mean, it's community service,
Mhm.
or helping, working with the community. Community taxpayers help pay for it. I'm hoping some supported it. I also hope down the road, even though, families maybe have their kids going to Sacred Heart or Riverside, that a few of them would maybe support, and ask down the road. I mean, that, again, I can't put a number to that concept. But if we do work together on some things, would we possibly get a little, again, I'm just throwing that out there because that's a finance piece too. I can't tell you how many people haven't come, and have stayed there, or how many, obviously you could figure out how many have come that went through 8th grade or whatever.
Mhm.
But the same thing going forward, I would sure hope a few families, I'd like to say all families, but I'm a realist too, that if, you were paying tuition there, maybe you don't support everything here, but hopefully you would support maybe something. And again, I don't know how you ever put a dollar to, we don't know who votes for what. But if we do work collaboratively in certain places, I don't see them coming for basketball, girls basketball, boys basketball right now. I mean, I just
Well,
don't see.
and really that's up to us. Like we
Correct.
have a particular need right
Yeah.
now.
So is this gonna open the door to other areas like girls soccer or, other areas where, hey, they did it here, so they're gonna do it here now?
I think it
Well, I
will.
guess that's why I was saying.
That
this
makes me
opportunity,
yeah, that makes me
like,
nervous.
I don't want it to be reflected upon like we would have said, absolutely not. We don't want to revisit, we don't want to even hear about this last fall when we all were like, yeah, okay, what do they have to say? Because we have a need. Like, we don't have a need for other sports and we can shut that door. That's up to us to do that.
And we reached out to Central because we had a need there and they could have shut that door and said, no, if you want to wrestle, come to our school so we can get that funding.
Yeah.
Um,
Going across the border
it's
is
a little
different,
different, yeah.
a little different.
Yep.
But
That said, it should be known that this does open the door.
So,
for Grand
so
Forks
then,
Kids to come over.
yeah, so what happens when that takes place? Like,
Yeah.
so are we saying that we're not gonna allow someone that lives in Grand Forks to come to Sacred Heart to play East Side hockey?
you can't say it, but on the flip side, if 50% of the kids or, something, you have that right every couple of years. They also follow under the high school league. You know what I'm saying? They don't get to come as a 10th grader. They didn't move. They would be ineligible for a year. The high school league piece still plays, but I don't think you can say,
So if we started a co-op and somebody was in Sacred Heart, they couldn't say, okay, I'm gonna move my kid to Sacred Heart, and then they couldn't play hockey for us right away?
if they did it's where you start the 9th grade year,
Well,
just like,
right,
yeah.
well, but if we, so that's kind of confusing, because if we said, yes, we'll do this in 2 years, right?
Yep.
Okay,
They could move them.
they could move them there next year.
Yep.
And then they could go to Sacred Heart and they would be able to play
You are
right
correct.
away, because.
I'm just saying as an 11th grader to come over and all of a sudden start,
But I
They're-
think that's important because that list of names that we got, that was a comment a couple times, like, but it should only be for Minnesota residents. And that can't be that way
No.
based on what you said.
I don't believe you can, like I say, it's just like if you're co-oping with Crookston. If a student legally goes to Crookston, you can't say you have to live in that. If they open and roll from Bagley, you can't say no, they can. I mean, they're going to school there. So I mean, if you co-op with that school, if they're in good standings, going to school there,
Public to
It
know.
is important for the public to know,
Yep.
but I think it's also important to know that these are 2-year agreements. And you see something like that happening, you shut it down.
I think that's easier said than done when you.
Once it's
have-
already
When
open.
you have the door open and the board has to, you don't know who the board's gonna be moving forward and you get letters and emails and calls and everything and everybody's at, it's a lot, I think it's a lot harder to shut a door that's been open.
There, I don't see girls from Grand Forks moving schools to come play for East Grand Forks. There are girls from Grand Forks that actually go to War Road, and go to school there and play there. I don't see them doing
Why
that
wouldn't they go across the river if they go to War Road?
because we're not War Road. We don't win state championships every year. That's why.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just, like, that's, you saying that they won't do that doesn't make sense to me because they're willing to do that. to-
I'm saying that if there's girls in Grand Forks that are looking for a good school to play at, to get noticed, they do go to War Road. I don't think East Grand Forks is a kind of program that was going to draw people from other towns, right now anyways, to come to change schools so they can play hockey.
I think you will have a few.
I think
And
you will.
I think that is just what it is.
and I can't answer, you know, they said they had 3 this year or 4. I don't remember what the number was. I mean, I know one of them isn't because I know one of the parents, but
Yeah.
other than that, there could be 1 or 2. I mean, I don't know who the kids are, you know, but I don't, like I said,
They
Grand
can't-
Forks is having some success right now too, so that,
That's what I
I
mean.
mean,
I
there's
don't,
gonna be different fact patterns every single year you do this.
Yeah. I don't know, it's hard. These decisions are hard.
Yeah.
We have
Nope.
to try to do what is in the best interest of our students, our programs, our activities, our district. And at this time, I don't think it reflects the need to co-op at the high school level.
Is this some,
The root of the problem at the younger levels, yes, but then girls have to stay in girls' hockey. The girls are going and playing in boys' hockey. So how is that helping the girls' program in the?
it's
younger
not,
levels?
and I don't agree with that. I don't think we
Mm.
should be.
So
Yeah,
there's-
I don't agree with it either, but that's not our business.
No, that's not our business, but when we're talking about trying to build up the program at the
Yeah.
upper level,
But,
those are some of the problems at the lower level.
oh, I agree, there's lots of problems at the.
But
lower
eventually,
level. We can't help that.
No. I
eventually-
know. That's-
eventually those
that's what
girls,
we're Basing this information or this decision on is,
those girls that play
Yeah.
with the boys, eventually they will switch.
because
to
you said
girls
that
hockey.
12U and 10U, it has nothing to do with us, but we're basing our decision on what 10U and 12U has, not what the high school has.
Because eventually we're gonna have to co-op with Crookston or a situation similar to that. And I'm trying to avoid that by trying to help the program any way that we can right now.
Yeah, I'm doing the one thing that I can do.
Yeah.
To make it keep going. I can't help what the city allows, or what the state allows, or what the federal allows, or what Title IX allow. I can't affect that, but I can affect this.
but this isn't where the problem lies right
It
now.
will be.
But we looked at those numbers. That was what, 2032?
Yeah.
That it was,
You aren't, with those numbers, you weren't gonna have a varsity and a JV.
I don't know.
Anyway.
It's a hard choice.
It is a hard choice, I agree.
I look at it like, I'm on this school board to make this the best, make our school the best we can for the students here. And I think this is going to benefit students, and I think not doing it is going to have a negative effect on our girls' hockey program. So I feel like we should do it.
I guess I look at it differently. I said, I think that it has a negative effect from our educational standpoint because people aren't coming through the door and they're not transferring over. And the funds that their enrollment gives us allows us to further educate our students. That's where I'm having a hard time.
and again,
And here's the weird part. I don't think either one of us are wrong in our way.
no, and I was just gonna say that.
That's the crazy thing. That's why it's hard, because I agree with you and in all those things.
None of us really can predict the future, so we have to just try to do what's
Yeah.
best and what we think right now.
Voting, done with discussion?
Holly, you're
All right. You wanna take it? Yes.
Yes.
No.
No,
Okay, motion carries 3-2. Nine is payment of claims and account. Is not here, I don't even know what to do.
I can do it. I'll make a motion to approve checks 131144 to 131231, the amount of $168,187.27. No electronic transfers.
25 cents.
Oh, 25 cents. What did I say?
27. Just making sure. All right, I'll second. All those in favor of paying the bills, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. 10.0 is board member comments. Holly. Matt?
I just want to say that if, I appreciate the discussion again from everybody. If this co-op does become a problem, I'll be the first one to say, yeah, let's get out of it. I agree with you, Josh and Lindsay, that, financially, we should do what's best for our school, but in this situation, I feel like helping these girls is the right thing to do, but that's all I gotta say.
Josh?
Good luck to, basketball. They're starting their playoffs this week.
Yeah.
Girls start this week, boys start next week. It should be a fun couple weeks, hopefully. Kids can get a couple wins and create some excitement. I know our boys right now are going in at number 1 and girls are, I think, are 6th right now, so. Yeah, there's a lot of teams, so, there's a lot of good excitement around them right now, so hopefully we can, pack the gym Thursday for the girls and, yeah, that's all I got.
I'm good. I think I've used all my words tonight.
I just want to thank administration for coming and giving us updates. That was, those were nice to hear. We haven't heard them from a while. These were hard votes and, almost feels like no losers, no winners, but they are what they are and, we'll move forward and hope for success. The next meeting of Board of Education is scheduled for March 9th, 2026, 5:30, this room.
Yeah, I've asked Holly if she had comments.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, did you? Oh, did you? Okay, I'm sorry.
Thanks for looking out, though.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's to adjourn the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion